Welcome in everybody to Fantasy Pros MLB. This is the Fantasy Baseball Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and we're continuing on with our Ultimate Guide, Part 2 of starting pitchers. If you missed Part 1, go back and watch on demand on our YouTube channel, Fantasy Pros MLB. Subscribe while you're there. Sarah is the guest of that one, and today a very special guest, fresh off of 80,000 words. How one man could write so many words over a week's time, nobody knows, but we know him as Nick Pollack from Pitcher List. Pollack, it's good to see you, my friend. How you handling all the snow here on the East Coast with me? A little different where you are, a lot more shoveling where I am, but you able to get out of your house, your apartment, all right?
Oh my gosh. It is great to see both of you, by the way. And it is disgusting. I'm a curmudgeon. I hate the snow. I think of it as a short-term investment as opposed to a long-term one, because here in New York, I want to be able to walk around. I want to enjoy things.
That's right.
And it just gets disgusting here. So no, I've been holed up writing this article for the past month and a half. So,
well, I hope everyone reads it, and I want everyone watching today to go to Pitcher List and go check it out. Please don't make that man write that many words for no reason. Welsh is here again.
Hi.
We've got a lot of good conversations. Hi, Welsh.
I'm here
Welsh,
too.
You're on the
I'm
opposite end.
Yeah.
You're sun-tanned and maybe a little sunburned. I don't know.
I'm a little bit of everything. Everybody can see my my glasses. No free ads. I would tell what glasses I was wearing, but you can see the glass line. I'm very red faced. I'm looking a little Brandon Pfaadt-ish. If I was sweating, I would look just like Brandon Pfaadt right now. But yeah, I'm very tan. Very, very tan.
All right. We are going to go through pitchers number 46 and onward with Nick Pollack. Again, the first 50 or so we touch base with, Sarah's on, and now Nick is going to take us deeper into the hive of starting pitching. And of course, before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop your comments below, because you might win yourself the Fantasy Baseball Championship belt from Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy football hardware. This bold 6-pound belt is the statement you want to make at any event, wedding, bar mitzvah, funeral, even. You walk in there. I'll tell you what, Welsh has already told me he wants to be buried with his belt. His wife says, no. I say, don't worry, I'll sneak it in there at the end for you there, because I'm going to outlive everybody. That's my plan. But how do you win this championship belt from Trophy Smack? I'll tell you how. You subscribe to the channel, you drop your comments below. That's it. That's all you got to do. And of course, don't forget to ring the bell till that goes ding for notifications, so you never miss a piece of content here on the channel. And then we can let you know if you're the winner of the Trophy Smack Fantasy Baseball Championship belt. All right, gents, before we get to number 45 and beyond, Nick Pollack, there's one pitcher I did want to talk to you about who was above 45, and Welsh gave his thoughts, Eno gave his thoughts, but I was fascinated about yours because it's such a weird circumstance that you don't see very often. Trey Savage of the Toronto Blue Jays went from the low minor leagues to the World Series in the same season. It's not a normal path. What do you make of that rise of Trey Savage, where his ADP is right now, and what his 2026 prospects are? What's your take on Savage?
I'm really sorry, guys. I'm just so distracted by the idea of Joe Pisapia pulling a reverse Curb Your Enthusiasm with that belt.
Reverse curb.
Not the 5-iron. It's instead going to be the belt.
Slide it in there.
Oh, just get it in there. And with Savage,
we are
what's
very
so interesting,
Jeff Garland and
with Savage, it's a very odd situation. Okay, just even from a approach standpoint, what he does is so unique. His splitter is the steepest splitter in baseball. And what that means is that the angle of which it comes in, and it's low all the time, is steeper than any other splitter. So batters struggle more to hit that pitch than your typical splitter down. And he pairs that with the four-seamer that without the splitter would get hit pretty hard because it has that steep angle but lives upstairs, which is actually really easy to hit. And it's not the hardest velocity either. But then you have the slider that is above average, and it's a bit of a stabilizing pitch against right-handers. So ultimately, I do like what Savage does. The Blue Jays did come out and say that they're going to try to manage his innings a little bit this year. I'm not really concerned about that because honestly, where he's going in drafts, you'd be happy if you had a guy that was quality for 150 innings at this point. We're not living in the 180 to 200 inning range of pitchers anymore. That's just not what happens when you get down to the 40s anymore. So you should be happy if that is quality. I am leaning to the uniqueness of Savage and that absurd steep arm angle, helping him a ton to be an effective pitcher. However, where I have him in my rankings is on the lower end of what Saris calls the hype 7. That is your McClain, your Bubba Chandler, your Chase Burns, even your Cam Schlittler. I love their skills more than a Savage. I only have Burns lower just because of the flex restraint from last year.
Ooh, love
So-
me some Chase Burns. Can I say one thing real
Yes,
quick, Nick? I think
please.
it's really interesting, just on you, Savage, not to carry us here, but I feel like you're one of the first people to say this, and I love that you did it, that you like the arm angle, because I feel like a lot of models and a lot of pitching people, the ding is about the high-end delivery, because everybody goes, hey, Josh Colemanter and relief pitchers, and that high release point and that high arm angle, you go on Baseball Savant, you'll see that you see it's like a high release point. That's the thing that makes everybody go, I just don't think, because it's very reliever. And you're the first person I feel like I've heard in a while say you actually think that is like the plus to his stuff.
What's funny is that I thought it was a negative too. I was like, oh, that's not good, because that makes the four-seamer more susceptible. However, we don't see it normally pair with this good of a splitter and a consistent one, at least that we've shown in a small sample, and a slider that is as effective as it is with Savage. So pairing all of that with the rarity these days of seeing someone with it is a positive for him. And how dare you mention Colemanter and suggesting that the Savage is like him. Okay, a lot of guys have many arm angles, and there are many 33-degree arm angle guys. Just because one is another one doesn't mean that they're all going to be like that, okay? So, no, with the Savage, it's something that I really just came to terms with. This is why the four-seamer has been getting away with as much as it is. This is why the splitter has performed well down at such high swing strike rates, with as many strike rates in the highest O swing. It's because of that, and we should lean into that and understand it.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable at bat too, because hitters aren't really used to that angle. You don't see it very often. Like the Jonah Tong angle too is another one too, that way over the top. It's not one you see very often.
You know what I asked? I asked Nacho Alvarez during the Arizona Fall League. I'd asked Nacho Alvarez about the idea. I said, what's harder going against, I'm trying to remember, I think it was one of the Rogers with the submarine versus Savage on the over the top. And he just looked at me and he just was like, it's all way too difficult, because it's like two massive extremes. So it just made me think of that.
You know, I'm happy you brought up Tong, by the way, because there's a lot of comparisons between the two, right? Tong has a high arm angle and he has a Vulcan changeup, which essentially acts like a splitter. There are a few differences, though, that make a Savage much better. One is that it's an even more extreme arm angle with the Savage. Two, a Vulcan change. Well, a Vulcan change, exactly as you think, you make the Vulcan like Spock, and then you stick your fingers into the ball. This is really inconsistent. Okay, this is, I cannot,
ball, Joe.
I cannot fathom Tong finding a more consistent splitter than he's had.
I can't get my fingers around it. It's a little bit too wide, the magic 8-ball. I can't.
The Savage has a more traditional grip, which makes me feel a little bit more confident also that it will be as consistent as it is. And the biggest flaw in Jonah Tong is that he doesn't have a third pitch. Oh, the curveball. The curveball is not a consistent, reliable breaking ball. It's too big to succeed as opposed to fail. And that's what we traditionally see. Remember Lucas Giolito with a giant curveball when he started, and it's been disappearing since. So Jonah Tong doesn't have that stabilizing strike pitch that Savage does, and that's really the major difference between them.
I'm just happy that you called me the Larry David, basically, of this program. I am.
The opposite.
So we're already
you're
off
not
to a
stealing
good
the
start.
5-iron. You put it in.
I'm not. But I'm also just as cranky and miserable, and things just bother me for no reason.
I was about to say, I think my attitude might be a little bit more into that, I've been told.
I don't know. I feel like you're a little bit more Jeff Garland. I'm a little bit more.
Because
can you guys give me a?
Gotcha. Thank you.
No, because you kind of support it. I will say something like, yeah, you're right. You should be mad. Like, I think you goad me into things because you think it'll be funny.
That is actually a great point.
So, all right, let's start with number 45 here. Robbie Ray, then Trevor Rogers in Baltimore, coming off a breakout season. Ranger Suarez now in Boston. Real quick, Welsh, we just did a draft and you passed on him for another pitcher. And a lot of people have concerns about Ranger Suarez in that ballpark. Are those concerns real for you as well?
Yeah, I don't know if like I'm targeting him as like, oh, this is a massive concern. He's just not really a target of mine. I think the ballpark is a negative in general. I don't think I'm in love with the offense round. It's a really tough division. And there's just like a hand grouping of guys that I just like a little bit more. So I don't want to be like ultra negative about him, but I do think like you could take one extra negative in the ballpark and just say, yeah, I'm out.
All right. At least Gavin Williams at 48 for Cleveland. The Mackenzie Gore, who I like to take a shot on at 49, I think is a top 50 starting pitcher who has 200 strikeout upside. Maybe a little bit of the learning tree too. Sit next to Jacob deGrom on the bench, learn a couple things about starting pitching. That'd be a nice change of pace as opposed to being the Washington Nationals. Then at number 50, is a guy that Nick Pollack likes, Drew Rasmussen. So I want to pause there. Talk to me about Drew Rasmussen in 2026, what you see that makes you excited about his prospects.
Drew Rasmussen is one of the hardest pitchers in baseball to hit. We have a stat called ICR at Pitcher List, which is better than barrel rate or hard hit rate is ideal contact rate, because there's more kinds of contact you don't want to allow, like really hard hit ground balls or line drives. So we have ICR, ideal contact rate, and Drew Rasmussen has the lowest ICRs. I mean, on his cutter, his sinker, and his four-seamer, these are three pitches he constantly throws for strikes. His cutter is absurdly filthy, as my cat is now getting on my lap, so I apologize. But it's just such an easy time with Drew Rasmussen to get a low ERA and a low whip. He's constantly done this. And the only thing that really is missing is stability for volume at this point, right? You're wondering if he can go 150 innings again. And let's be honest, the Rays just did exactly what you wanted him to do. I'd be happy if the Rays just did the same thing again. They said, fine, let's just ramp you up into 6 innings again, go 150 innings, make sure you survive a full season. I don't see why you can't do that. And also the strikeouts could come back. That cutter and the four-seamer have such a fantastic gap in movement at a very minimal velocity difference that we should see higher put-away rates on that cutter. If you see a lower strikeout rate at any time, the first thing you should look at is to see how efficient was this pitcher getting strikeouts. What that means is in 2 strikeouts, when he throws this pitch, was it a strikeout or not? You'll see that put-away rate is way lower all of a sudden when they have a lower strikeout rate, and usually that regresses back. If it's all of a sudden like, oh, he had a 20% put-away rate, now it's 11%, it'll probably go back to like 18, 20%. So that should happen on Rasmussen's cutter. He should get more strikeouts. And I think he's just a really quality, safe pitcher.
Yeah, certainly in the top 50. That's pretty damn good for all the things that Nick is pointing out there. Tanner Bybee comes in at 51. Shota Imanaga at 52. Carlos Rodon will miss the opening of the season at 53. Then we have back-to-back Cubs, Edward Cabrera, Cade Horton. I want to have a little conversation about these guys. I remember Lance Brozdowski was on the show last year talking about Edward Cabrera having a breakout season. He did. Still not a full season. We still haven't gotten that quite from him, but we're still reaching his peak years. And then Cade Horton, a pitcher, came through the minor league system for the Cubs. Welsh, who I know you liked a lot, but doesn't have quite the dominant profile of some other young pitchers that, we've been excited about in the past. These guys are going back-to-back in ADP. Who would you rather have? Because obviously this is a choice a lot of people are going to have to make. Is it Cade Horton or is it Edward Cabrera?
It's a great question, too, because Cade Horton comes up in a lot of discussions, and unfortunately, he's come up as kind of a bust in a lot of people's minds. I'm good with him. The thing I don't like is it's like really low strikeouts. So when I look at like a well below strikeout guy, or at least what the results were last year, like 20%, there's just like a little wiggle room. If he does get hit up a little bit more, he's not able to hold into the strikeouts. So I do lean Edward Cabrera. He made really good strides on walking a lot less. He went from almost 12% walk rate down to 8%. Strikeouts maintained right around 26%. He's going in a pretty pitcher-friendly environment, depending where the winds are at. So, I like Edward Cabrera in this one. I wouldn't hate on anybody that still likes Cade Horton, because you do have to also acknowledge that stretch of where he was at was ridiculous. And if he does uptick the K's, it took Brian Wu. I mean, different stuff here, but Brian Wu, it took a couple years for him to uptick those strikeouts. And if you start to see that progression, Cade Horton is going to be dangerous. But I'm probably a little bit more likely to take Cabrera, because I also think he comes at a cheaper cost despite this close rank, the ECR rank.
Nick, these Cubs guys are back-to-back. Is there one that you prefer over the other?
Well, I would say it is Cade Horton over Edward Cabrera, but I think Welsh makes a really good point of just like whoever goes second, sure, I'll take them.
Yeah.
It is really nice to pitch for the Cubs. This is a great defense behind you. It actually is a home run suppressor with that wind more often pushing the ball in as opposed to out. So that's why you see like Matthew Boyd having a better season from coming from Cleveland, where lefties have a great time hitting home runs to right field. And with Cade Horton, he does a great job of manipulating his cut four-seamer. He also has a sweeper and a changeup that both are above a 20% swinging strike rate to their respective batters. That is, sweepers to right-handers, 20% swing strike rate. Changeups to left-handers, 23%. And I think to myself, wait, hold on a second. Put-away rate. What? Oh my gosh. He has a below-average put-away rate on his sweeper to right-handers. That's going to go up. So the strikeout rate should be better for Cade Horton next year. I also do believe in his walk rate being lower than Cabrera. Cabrera lowered his walk rate last year with the thing that we've been screaming about for ages. He has a low strike four-seamer that he throws like so much, but then a high strike sinker that he didn't throw. So what does he do? He just throws a sinker more than a four-seamer. Where are the walks? I don't know. It's that simple sometimes, guys. Just look at the strike rates of individual pitches. And if they change those, then yeah, more strikes, fewer walks.
Interesting. Oh yeah, no, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
The biggest problem I think for Edward Cabrera is that health has always been a thing. So if I had to really have a tiebreaker between them, I would say Cade Horton, because I do believe he just had a full season. I know he's had some injuries in his past as well, but he just had everything that you could ask for to dictate a good full season. Edward Cabrera has yet to throw over 140 innings in a year. And I would have a little bit more of a concern there.
And maybe even the ultimate tiebreaker is just whichever one is cheaper could be.
Well, right.
I understand that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the number one. An interesting thing on Cade, which really speaks to the ballpark factor. He had around a 1.5 ERA at home with a over 3.5 ERA on the road, and like almost a 15-degree launch angle up against him. Like, so guys are getting the ball in the air, and obviously Chicago is helping suppress some of that. So, it's just something to watch on a full season, get on the road. But it's just interesting stuff with Horton and Cabrera both, whether you're going strikeouts, low walks. I think these are both really fascinating dudes that it's like, give me the cheaper cost, and I'm probably in on one of them.
Because you put those two guys together, I want to have a team now, Welsh, called Horton Here's a Woo. Can I do that? Little Dr. Seuss thing?
Oh, Horton Here's a Woo. Okay, there you go. We were just talking about a team name generator. There you go.
That was my fourth grade play. Horton Here's a Who.
Horton Here's a Who?
I had one line, Joe.
Yeah.
Someone said, did you go to sleep all right? And I say, no, the question is, did you wake up okay this morning?
Yeah.
Famous actor, Nick Pollack. Thank you so much,
Nick
guys.
Pollack, ladies and gentlemen.
See you next week.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nick Pollack's acting. Oh, boy. If I only had been your agent then. I would have demanded more dialogue for you. All right. Jack Flaherty comes in at number 56 after the Chicago boys. Then Tatsuya Imai, who we're going to talk about later in the show. I want to save him for later. 57. Shane Baz at 58. Welsh. This is a guy that you love in this range. Let's talk about Shane Baz. New start in Baltimore for him. What does that mean for you? Yeah.
I mean, another interesting thing when we're talking about like home and road splits out there, Shane Baz got beat up in that minor league ballpark last year, almost a 6, a little over 5.5 ERA on the road. It was in the like 3.8 range at home. We saw his velo go up year over year. Obviously, health is always a thing with him, but he went from 95.6 to 97 year over year, which you love to see. The curve became a big, more predominant part of his pitching. It had around a 30% whiff rate. Like, the bad results heavily weighted in the overall, because you look at the overall stuff and you're seeing a guy that had an almost 5 ERA in 160 innings, a 1.3 whip. Like, those are going to kill you across the board. But you put him in Baltimore, you've got a lot more run support, you're out of the minor league ballpark. I pay attention to those home or those road splits, and I see a guy that it's like, if I can get sub 4 ERA from this mix in Baltimore, I think good things are in lock for Shane Baz. So I think he's just a really good value right now. I think there's a lot of upside, and I think those really heavy extreme splits are kind of masking like the good stuff. He had Fangraphs stuff plus of 125 overall. I mean, his curve was absolutely off the charts, 125. Slider is good. It's a 107. The curve was a 125. Great pitching plus. I mean, there's great stuff in Shane Baz. He's a target of mine, and I'm still surprised he's going as late as he is.
Pollack, real quick, after Baz, you got Bieber at 59 and Nola at 60 to round out this grouping we're going to talk about. Would you rather have Baz or one of these more veteran guys like Bieber or Nola, even though Nola came off a pretty disappointing season?
Oh, man. I would rather have Aaron Nola. I really want to go for Baz. The biggest issue I see with Shane Baz is he hasn't quite put it all together yet. George Steinbrenner Field was terrible, and I should have even mentioned that with Drew Rasmussen. Him going to the Trop now, the Trop is like the best place to pitch, and you just had a sub-3 ERA with like an amazing whip with George Steinbrenner Field. Like, this is just going to get better. Same with like Ryan Pepio. Love both of those guys. And I was going to be so excited for Baz. And he goes to Campton. Not necessarily terrible. It's just, Baz is so interesting because he's like right there, but then he's not. His slider was the destroyer of worlds, and then now it's a terrible pitch where he would throw like 4 in a game, and one of them would allow a home run. And so we had to shift to a cutter, which is fine. And as Welsh pointed out, absolutely, he started doing it in 24 when he came back initially. the curveball all of a sudden had to take over because the slider was bad and it was a great pitch, and it was a very reliable one from last year. But it's not like the most overwhelming four-seamer anymore. And I need to see another step forward from Baz. So I don't want to wish cast that he will, but I definitely think there's a good chance. So I really want to have Baz, but I can't turn down Aaron Nola. Look, it's even year Aaron Nola.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
it's a lot of data to support that.
It's funny. Dude. It works that way. Sometimes he just happens to have lost seasons every other year. I don't know. But he had injuries last year, got him out of rhythm. And there are very simple things to tweak what happened last year. He had some terrible luck. He didn't have a degradation of skills. And generally when you see these older pitchers get worse and hit that cliff, you start to see, okay, the velocity is going down, the movement's going down, a lot of these extra elements. And no, the curveball is still one of the best curveballs in baseball. Aaron Nola should honestly stop throwing his sinker away and trying to do backdoor sinkers to right-handers. Just throw it inside. It's like the most easy textbook approach. Sinker sweeper. We hear it all the time. It's pretty much what he can do. And then he has a fantastic approach against left-handers with that same curveball. So Aaron Nola is exactly the same guy that you want him to be. I feel like this is an amazing time to get Aaron Nola because, 60? Are you kidding me? That's a guy you're not going to drop the entire year in your 12-teamers. I'd be so lucky to get Aaron Nola at 60.
A long track record of every other year and a long track record also of taking the ball every fifth day, which is something you don't see a lot of guys do. All right, if you want to try to get some of these guys on your teams and start practicing that, well, it's time to use the draft simulator here from Fantasy Pros. Go to fantasypros.com/draftwizard or just download the app so you can get all of your mock drafts on. We just did one today. It's going to be on the channel, so go check that out as well. You can set your league specific settings. You can include any kind of roster configurations, scoring systems, whatever it is. We can do it over here at Fantasy Pros. You can do drafts in just minutes. You can undo picks, redo picks, continue on until you build the rosters that you like, and then you can go into your drafts feeling confident. Don't forget to sync your leagues over at Fantasy Pros. And if you're looking to play out those leagues, where's the best place to do it? Well, of course, it's Fantrax. So head over to Fantrax right now because you can do multi-team trades there. You have leagues that run 365 for Dynasty and for regular leagues too. You can trade draft picks. You can customize your leagues however you want. And that's what fantasy should be about. It should be about the experience you're trying to get out of it. So go right now, bring your fantasy baseball league to Fantrax or start a new one for an unbelievable user experience. Sign up today at fantrax.com/fantasypros. That's fantrax.com/fantasypros. All right, let's get to this next grouping here after Aaron Nola, who is done and dusted out of here at number 60. Andrew Abbott at 61, Zac Gallen at 62, Matthew Boyd comes in at 63. Then we have Shane McClanahan at 64. I want to stop there because we got a couple targets here on the way. Both of them actually Welsh targets. So Welsh, let's talk about Zac Gallen first. I want to get your take. He returns to Arizona, where obviously last year, up and down season. And yes, we see your mug. We'll talk about McClanahan.
I didn't notice that before.
Yeah, that's a clever mug. So for those listening on the podcast, I know you missed the Vulcan grip. You have to visualize that. And Nick Pollack also has a mug that says McClanahan fan on it. I assume that was Drew McClanahan.
Yeah, no, the other McClanahan, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you do have that Golden Girls t-shirt. I know you do. Let's not pretend like you don't. Let's talk about Zac Gallen first, because I love to hear Nick's take on him. But Welsh, Gallen, again, kind of an enigma for a good chunk of the season, then a strong finish. So who is the real Zac Gallen in 2026?
And I've been talking about him a lot, so I guess I apologize for talking about it again. One of the big things was talking about just how low the cost was many months ago when everyone was like, well, let's see where he's going to go. Wouldn't have been a bad thing if he went to the Cubs and all what we talked about in the suppression. The thing I just come back to is like the thing that was holding him back the entire season was the changeup inconsistency. And it's weird because it was like the changeup ended up having like a low batting average against, but it's because he wasn't throwing it for strikes. And that ended up him getting hit around with some of his other stuff, trying to get the curveball in. Fastball was just kind of cake. It wasn't a great pitch. And I think that's a good argument to like why you can still not like him. But my biggest argument has been he just became vintage Gallen as soon as the trade deadline hit. August, he had a 2.57 ERA. At the very end of the season, he had some blowups that kind of popped back in, but he was going 6. He was getting quality starts. You saw the consistency, and he's stubborn. He's a super stubborn pitcher. And the entire season, it was just like, I'm going to throw you first pitch changeups. And guys are like, nope, can't throw it for strikes. Bam, you throw that crappy garbage fastball in, and then he's getting banged around. And then that wasn't ever allowing him to set up the curveball. He found the consistency at the back end of the year. And it's a dude that goes significant amounts of innings. Maybe he's not, Cy Young type of guy anymore, but he's making that $20 million bet on himself this season. And as a low end thing, not focusing on the stuff, because I don't have a great argument to say with Zac Gallen, like he's got all the great stuff, blah, 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 but he's got a hell of a defense behind him. You want to look at that infield, bringing in Nolan Arenado as a Gold Glove third baseman to be in there. Perdomo's great. Cattell's talking about getting that Gold Glove in here. Carlos Santana, there's a play. It's a phenomenal infield defense. And the outfield it's very athletic. And Jordan Lawler, if as long as he can play solid defense, you have got an A+ defense that's behind this team. So really my biggest case is Zac Gallen's not going to be a top 25 starting pitcher. But I think where he's going, because where the hell do we have? He's outside the top 60. I don't think it's a crazy thing to think that he can't come back and be like a top 35 pitcher. Can't be a guy that you're holding on to for the majority of the season. And I'm banking on the second half or the post-trade deadline version of Gallen carrying back over this year. So he's a massive target of mine.
How about for you, Nick? What are your thoughts on Zac Gallen? Again, kind of an up and down season for him last year. I think it scared a lot of fantasy managers away, but also scared some major league teams away too in free agency.
So the number one inefficiency I think we have as fantasy analysts is predicting defenses. If you look at Jose Soriano last year, he was the number one ground ball inducing starting pitcher. The Angels were the worst defense. I wonder why Jose Soriano allowed a lot of hits last year. And you look at Merrill Kelly's great seasons, Rangers in the second half last year and the Diamondbacks 2 previous seasons, fantastic defenses, right? The Cubs we were just talking about, those guys have outperformed their peripherals with their ERA and WHIP, right? And here I see Welsh talking about how good this Diamondbacks defense is. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. Yeah, we should be very much in on Merrill Kelly again. We should be in on Zac Gallen again, right? So Ryne Nelson, yeah, sign me up. These are, I think, value plays for all your leagues. And with Gallen, I remember talking to Gallen. It was one of my first player interviews. And the funniest thing about it was I did the interview. I couldn't believe it. I jumped for joy, and then I listened back to it and it only recorded me.
Oh, God, that makes me sick to my stomach.
But I sat there and I wrote out everything. And what he said then is pretty much all the same stuff now. He thinks like a closer in the first inning, right? He attacks. He does not, he's not someone that lets the game come to him. He's the one who gets the game himself, right? And that can be a positive and a negative, because I think there are certain things in his approach that he just hasn't had to change over the years. Curveball is the death ball. It is an amazing pitch down that is always going to get those swinging strikes. And he's constantly set it up with a four-seamer for called strikes down and neglected the fact that this four-seamer has more cut action than batters expect. But he's never really learned how to jam it inside of lefties. And when that changeup isn't there, as Welsh is saying, which has always been a back and forth for him, same with the cutter and the slider. Back then, he didn't know what the difference was, and now he's kind of splitting it up. That is, like, he literally didn't know which one it was that he was throwing. We didn't either. It's just, he needs that fastball inside to take down lefties more. He needs that changeup to be there. He needs a slider to be there for righties. And he'll always have the curveball, but it really does depend on, all right, is my fastball going to do enough for me? And let me get those outs with my defense as much as possible. So I think so. I'm going to lean toward Gallen having a down season because the skills ultimately weren't so much different than what we've seen in previous years. And also, I haven't really seen Gallen have major changes to adapt in the past. So I'm a little bit more hesitant to believe that he's going to all of a sudden get those for next year. But I'm in for the most part.
All right, so in for the most part. That's a glowing recommendation. In for the most part. Matthew Boyd at 63, but Shane McClanahan, we know you're in on. So I know Welsh has got him as a target too. Yep. So before we get to the Mug Man, let's get to the Welsh Man. Talk to me about Shane McClanahan, because this is a guy I'm not in on. Still, even at the ADP, you have Tommy John surgeries, plural, and you have nerve issues and things like that. To me, there's other guys around this range that I'd rather have still, because I'm concerned that Shane McClanahan just doesn't pitch again.
I understand that. my biggest argument against that is, who cares? He's so cheap at this point. Like, who cares about all those arguments that you have, because it's not paying top 30 or top 40. He's a droppable pitcher.
To counter that, like, Matthew Boyd had a really strong season that helped a lot of fantasy teams at 63. Like, you can throw Pollack's throwing hands. I mean, Merrill Kelly's a guy that's going to give me 30
Those
starts.
guys were free last year, though, too. But those guys were free last year. And like, my argument would be, like, they're still free guy. I'm looking down this list and I still see some free guys. You're allowed to have that argument. I get why you would want to be out on Shane McClanahan, because guess what? A lot of our arguments are going to have to be from 2023 and that, or 2022 more, if you want to put that. So I understand why you can be risk averse, but to me, risk aversion is early in drafts. It's not later in drafts, unless I've just, I'm going nuts and I'm going crazy and I'm like, give me all these guys, and you've got too many. But like, I think the upside is still great. Prior to the injury, even though 2023 was a little down-ish, he still had a 3.29 ERA. He was still keeping down batters with an okay whip, but prior to that, he was elite. Shane McClanahan was a top 15, top 10 pitcher in baseball, and he has had all of this time through rehabbing. The Rays, he just got to throw. We're getting some glowing reports out that the velo is back. That's probably one of the most important things. He was 96.8, 96.7 the last 2 years that he pitched. He was pushing 96 in that start, where most of these guys are not at 100%. He has an absolutely just one of the best changeups in baseball when he's right. And I think that combination, that's just not mentioning, curveball, slider that he's going to throw. It's about health. And if it is all about health, to me, you can make two decisions on him. It's not worth it because of what you said, or that he will be healthy, and a healthy Shane McClanahan is a top 20 fantasy option that you are getting outside the top 60. So to me, this is a no-brainer. And as I've said on episodes, I am more boring at the top end of the pitching I'm going to draft this year. I want Logan Webb is like my number one pitcher. Like, I want some boring guys, because I kind of want to go a little balls to the wall at the end and take a couple shots. Give me Chase Burns and give me Shane McClanahan as like my risk pieces to have three core pitchers that I think, again, my biggest argument is that when he is right, he is one of the best pitchers in baseball. We have had 2.5 years to get right. And from all intents and purposes, he's going to be capped this year, going to potentially start the season, and his stuff is back. So, that's the anti-Strider. Like, what's the Strider conversation's been? That's like, well, stuff didn't come back off of injury. Early reports are the stuff is back on McClanahan. So I'm going to inherently be back on
well,
Shane.
I mean, we could talk about the stuff not being back for Strider. We'll get into that later on the show, but I feel like, again, it's like we got to this place last year with McClanahan, and then poof,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And that, I think, is a very terrifying thing. Nick, I know you're itching to get this conversation.
Last year.
Much higher cost, and a higher cost last year. Him and Alcantara were both higher cost, but now we're even more removed from Spencer Strider's injury, and so far there's no red flags that are popping up for him physically this year, and still we're in the ramp-up phase still of Shane McClanahan. So, Nick, talk to me about McClanahan at this ADP. I understand Welsh's point of view, which is, hey, it's late enough for me to feel like it. Now, I think if you're in a 12-team league, you're fine. In a deeper league, in a 15-team league, I think there's questions I have where I'm just like, I don't want to take a guy that I think has so many ranges of outcomes that are negative for me, just because he has the upside to be a 20 SP. He does, but at the same time, he also has the downside of not pitching at all for me.
So, okay, hold on a second. You just said something at the end there that completely changes this conversation. Because are we talking about this in a 12-teamer, or are we talking about this in a 15? Because those are two separate.
We can do both. We can walk.
Well, okay, so 15-team, I am going to understand a little bit more of the hesitation of taking this, right? Because it is more valuable to have those quality innings guys in those 15 teams. That said, 12 teams where I live, this is an absolute steal. And I'm going to say, I'm assuming most of the people listening right now are in 12 teams or shallower. And when it comes to the Fantasy Pros rankings at 64, it's talking to 12 teamers, not 15. That's my interpretation of them. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But that's how I see this.
Typically, yeah.
And I'm going to talk about it in 12 teamers right now. And I'm also going to tell you, Joe, if you need to get some more, now's the time to do it, because I'm going to talk for a while. So what Welsh just said is amazing. It's fantastic. This is a conversation I came onto this own podcast with Alex Fast, I want to say like 5-6 years ago, talking about Shohei Ohtani and Jesus Luzardo in the same scenario where it's like, oh, these are the injured guys. I don't know. They're very good. And I had a debate with Alex. I'm saying, guys, if it's only health here, you take this chance. And you, Joe, were like, no, this is ridiculous. I'm giving to Alex Fast. And Shohei Ohtani was amazing, for 150 innings or something like that. Jesus Luzardo had his best season. And it's just like, what are we doing here? Because look at your teams from last season and your 12-teamers. How many pitchers did you actually keep on your team after pick 180? How many of them? I want to say it's like 3 at most you did, right? This is your game is after. And when it comes to late flyers, you want it to be a binary choice. You do not want to take a flyer who you don't know if it's going to be good or not at May 15th. You don't want to know. You want to know by April 10th. And with Shane McClanahan, it's as simple as, is he hurt or is he not hurt? And you might even know before even the season starts. And then you can go replace it and go get whatever other flyer that's out there, because there are going to be so many others. And you say, oh no, Nick, there aren't many flyers. Let me tell you this. I do this every single year. I look at the players from the past season who succeeded and who was drafted after pick 290. I'm going to give you some names. Matthew Boyd, Merrill Kelly, Chris Bubich, Edward Cabrera, Andrew Abbott, Ryne Nelson, Jameson Taillon, Noah Cameron, Emmett Sheehan. Okay. Oh, and by the way, those are the ones doing well from the beginning of the year. Let's talk about midseason. We have Shane Bieber, Lucas Giolito, Jacob Mizorowski, Noah McLean, Trevor Rogers, Kyle Bradish, Yuri Perez, Parker Messick, Joey Cantillo, Hurston Waldrep, all of these players in season that you're adding. So the replacement value is great. You're fine. If you need to find your Matthew Boyd value, well, guess what? You found it last year off the waiver wire. Literally Matthew Boyd. So go for Shane McClanahan. Worst case scenario, you have to go and find someone else. And there's no middle ground that's actually hurting you.
Question
what I'm really
about
getting
the middle ground.
Draft pick.
I'd like to ask you a question.
These injured guys at this point who are only about health when it's not entering the season. Chris Bubich is another example who's right after this. If Chris Bubich is in that rotation to start the year, awesome. He's going to be great. But if he's not, then you just move on and you get someone else. It's absolutely amazing pick here, Shane McClanahan, 64. Oh my gosh.
Question for you. You keep saying it's a very binary choice, but there is another option here, because we saw it play out numerous times last year with guys who hadn't pitched for quite some time coming off injuries, which was the Alcantara, the Striders, these guys who didn't have a feel for pitching or mentally were still not in a place where they were confident. So there is I think there's a third option here that I think you're dismissing a little bit, which is you go from he's hurt and he's no good to you. He's healthy and he's the best pitcher in baseball again. Yeah. Or what about C, which is he's a guy week to week, you don't know what you're going to get and you don't know if you want to start him. How many people were like, should I start Alcantara? Can I keep doing this? I mean, Strider in August, you might want to jump off a tall building last year. Like, there is a third option. I think it's a little, well, I don't want to dismiss that for the people too. So what about that third option where a guy who hasn't pitched in 2.5 years, all of a sudden, I guess mentally where he's at too, because there's a feel for pitching too. When you haven't done it in a long time, it does make me a little concerned that there's another thing where you have him every week, you throw him out there and he's hurting you every week because he is not right there ready to go again.
Great point. So two things to say about that. One, Alcantara, not on the same level as Shane McClanahan. As much as being the guy that loved Sandy Alcantara back in the day, not the pure stuff of Shane McClanahan. What we liked about Sandy Alcantara was that he would be able to go deep into games and be able to generate quick outs and not overpower them the same way that Shane McClanahan does. With Spencer Strider, we actually saw right away that the stuff wasn't as good. We knew it. I if you follow my stuff, you would know that I was like, Spencer Strider, no sell, get rid of this. This is not the fastball of old. This is not the slider of old. We see that higher strikeout rate. We'll talk about it more later, but like there were so many signs that like this is not him, and you won't be carrying this dead weight for the entire season if you follow exactly what the stuff is with their pitches. So you'll know that from McClanahan. Fine, if you don't want to say it before the season starts, okay, I'll take it a week or two then. But I don't feel like we'll be in the situation of 3 months of Shane McClanahan hurting your teams in that what I call hipster scenario, headache-inducing pitcher stifling the entire roster, where you don't know if you want to hold them or drop them. That will not be, in my mind, a high percentage. That is like a 1% chance, in my view, happening for Shane McClanahan.
All right. I think it's much higher than 1% for a guy who, I mean, to me, this is the athlete thing of the mental game.
He is the 1%.
He's the 1% in terms of talent. But
he
you
is
have to
the
understand,
one who knocks.
Yeah, but here's the problem
Also,
is
more well-rounded than Strider, for example. Strider is very much, and like as a pitcher too, Strider's very much just like, here's my fastball. Slider, haha, got you.
You're
Shane
not
McClanahan,
wrong.
change of focus, much better feel of that with the slider and the
That
curve
I
and the
agree
four
with.
seamer. Like it's much
just think
more.
we're
We'll know
discounting
quickly if this just is not there.
And I just think we're discounting the mental aspect and the fear that exists. I think for a pitcher who's on the. I mean,
You can interpret that however you want, Joe.
Well, I mean, I mean, there's a track record of it. You know, I don't want to go down some of these dark windows of these things, but unfortunately it exists. But it's a good conversation, and I think this is why we have you on, because we like having these conversations, and it helps everybody who's watching make their own decisions about it. The boys are in on Shane McClanahan here. I'm still not enough of a discount for me. I like him outside the top 75, and I'm not getting that. Merrill Kelly at 65, Bubich at 66, Joe Musgrove at 67, Connelly Early. This is a pitcher that I know you and I agree on. We both like quite a bit, Nick. Problem is, there's no room at the inn right now. So what do we do here?
We don't.
We just
don't stash pitchers, guys. A roster spot is so valuable. I just listed off all of these guys that were productive past pick 290 last year that you would be able to get off the waiver wire right away, and don't turn that down for Connelly Early at some point arriving. You know, when he does arrive, I'm in on Connelly Early. I think he's a phenomenal pitcher. It's just, I don't know when, and don't put yourself through that.
Welsh, how about for you, Connelly Early? I mean, I guess the flip side of that argument is it's a long season, and if you have a big enough bench, you want as much talent as you can get. So you could find guys in April to kind of get you through if Early's not there, or even May. But I mean, 2/3 of a season, you get 4 months out of him. I don't know. He does kind of ring true a little bit at this ADP for me.
It's the unfortunate kind of conversation of the piece that I have to say, where it's like, it really is format specific. Like I am in agreement. Like there are very little guys that I'm going to stash in a 10, 12, or 15 team unless I have a giant bench, or the stashing is more IL quantitative. If you're talking about draft and hold, Connelly Early is a different discussion, because like, could one of those guys be out of a rotation in a month? Yes, absolutely. So if I'm drafting 50 roster spots, I want to have him. Listen, Connelly Early would be, I think, and we were talking about this before we started the show, if he had a rotation spot, or even like the feel of he was truly fighting for a rotation spot right now, he'd be top 50 in ranks. Everybody would have him in the top 50. His stuff is ridiculous. He added some, I think there's like 10, 15 pounds of muscle. He was working out here, I think in Arizona with guys like Tariq Skubal. A lot of the ASU guys were out here. Like, he's been putting the work in, driveline stuff, but he doesn't have a rotation spot right now. And I can't put an investment on a guy that just takes up a roster spot in so many different ways, by the way. Points leagues, that's a big ant. And I can't justify a format where I'm like, I'm going to eat a month, 6 weeks for a guy like Connelly Early. But I do agree that if we start to see Oviedo get beat up, or we see an injury, Early is going to be on every single website's #1 waiver wire pickups. You have to get him. He's beyond a streamer. We're all going to be talking about him. He just doesn't have a rotation spot right now. They've talked too glowingly about Oviedo. So yeah, the rank is just way too high, unfortunately. He's a draft and hold. He's just really not any of those formats.
Fair enough. All right, the next guy on the list is Bryce Miller, which is a target of Nick Pollack. So let's talk about Bryce Miller of Seattle here. Nick, give me your thoughts.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Bryce Miller had a lost season, and here he is without needing to add a pitch. Bryce Miller's stuff is insane. It's not just the four-seamer. The two-plane movement on both his curveball and his sweeper at 83 is insanely good. It's really just a matter of time to me that he actually spots those a little bit better, gets more whiffs on those, and understands that he doesn't need to just throw four-seamers all the time. There's also a splitter that is effective as a whiff pitch to lefties in there too. He has all the tools. He has an incredible home park. He's going to be in that rotation from the get-go, and the Mariners already shown that they like starting their guys. They are not one of those clubs like the Rays who will baby them and make them only go 4 innings or so. They will say, great, can you go 6 innings today? Awesome. You got to do that every 5 days now. So Bryce Miller is in the perfect scenario to just go out there and dominate every 5 days. I love this. I think that there's not, like, when you have a scenario where a guy doesn't need something else, he just needs the reps. Amazing.
Yeah. Garrett Cole comes in at 70. I don't know if anybody wants to make that investment this year, considering how last year went for a lot of the guys returning from TJs and braces. I don't know. I'm, again, kind of out unless it's a shallow league, in which case I'll think about it depending on the IL
Yuri
slots I have.
Perez and Bradish and Bieber worked.
They did, and then we just listed a bunch of guys that did not.
One,
it's
Spencer
50-50.
Strider. It was just Spencer Strider.
Sandy Alcantara didn't work.
No, Alcantara came. Alcantara was at the beginning of the season and not like an IL stash. And also at the end, he finally did come back around. But I understand that
another
one
too.
Can we call these guys the orthodontics group? If you're just going to call them the braces, all the braces, we'll just call it the ortho.
Yeah, I like this. I like this. Hiroki Sasaki at 71. His role's still in flux. Casey Mize, Nick Pollack. Finally, somebody you don't like. Let's talk about the why.
Okay, I want every pitcher to be dope. All right, I do too.
I just live in reality where they're not.
He is. Casey Mize is a Toby, right? And I don't like drafting guys like Mize who I can't tell you how they get out of that label. The four-seamer is dead zone. It is very hittable. His slider has been something he's been trying to figure out for ages, and he can't do it. He's tried a slider, cutter, all of that. His other good pitch is a splitter. And really, when you have a pitcher who does not have a good fastball, and really the only thing that is exceptional is a splitter, that's not a consistent pitcher. That is a hard thing to depend on routinely throughout a season for lots of strikes, to expect lots of strikeouts. And the fastball just, he needs to throw harder again, and he needs to have a cutter that works off of it. It's just not enough right now. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's going to add something brand new that's going to be great to really complement it, while I see other pitchers like Noah Cameron going right after him, who is a command artist. Like, he has 4 or 5 pitches, and it's awesome seeing him as a swatch, a southpaw with a tight changeup. There were a lot of those last year, and Noah Cameron was a poster child for that. Noah Cameron, the swatch, I would much rather have than Casey Mize.
That's got to be a t-shirt, right? You got to put that on a t-shirt. Noah Cameron at 73, Jose Soriano at 74, and 75, Shane Smith. So that creates that grouping. We'll get to the post 75 to 100 group in just a second. Just a reminder, we're brought to you today by Hard Rock Bet. And if you haven't already, place your first bet on Hard Rock Bet. There's still time for you to get 150 in bonus bets. If you win, just put $5 on a bet. If it hits, you get your winnings and 150 in bonus bets only at Hard Rock Sportsbook app. Download it today and make your first deposit. All right, Ryne Nelson comes in at 76. Jack Leiter at 77. I'd be remiss if I didn't stop and pause on Jack Leiter a little bit here just for a moment. Don't say anything, Welsh. I want to get the unfiltered Jack Leiter take here from Nick Pollack, because stats are stats, numbers are numbers. And if I know one thing, Nick Pollack is a numbers guy. Last year, if you go and take a look at 2025, the ERA was 3.86. The expected ERA 4.45. The xFIP 4.53 and the FIP 4.15. Nick Pollack, your thoughts?
Hold on. Let me just real quick. The context that Joe is leaving out on this. You can talk
I said
about
no
him
context,
as a whole.
and now you're giving it context. I don't think that's fair.
Okay,
no,
you know what? You're right.
Context.
I will make my comment after, 100%.
You can, of course, you're going to make a comment after. Nick Pollack.
Okay, so first and foremost, I like numbers. I wouldn't call myself a numbers guy. I would say that I try to be the merge of the eye test and numbers, as opposed to, because I pitched in college. My whole startup was pitcher gifts, so that we can actually get video and see them, because there's a lot you can learn from watching a guy pitch than just listening to the spreadsheets. And I don't actually use like xFIP and FIP and Sierra in those, because those are just derivatives of the actual data, which is the input, the pitches themselves. And they will tell you the things that those stats are trying to give you. So don't you dare put that on me, Joe.
All right. Okay.
Just kidding around.
But we do agree.
I was really in on it last year. I thought that this was going to be something that was a possible breakout, because the four-seamer on paper looks pretty cool. It is an elite velocity pitch. It is a flat attack angle. He has good extension. It has good IVB and all that stuff. And oh boy, he just can't command. And it's so frustrating watching this guy pitch, because you feel like these things should work, and then he just can't execute what he needs to in that moment. He needs that slider working down and away, and it's just, nope, that's not it right there. Maybe there's a sinker that actually might add. Cool, but I just can't play this game. He is a hipster to me. He is someone that I can blink, and he could be amazing for a season, and that'd be great. But when it comes to being a fantasy baseball manager, I can't draft Jack Leiter and hold on to this because I won't be able to know if it's time to drop him or not for far too long.
He said everything that I feel very eloquently about Jack Leiter. Welsh, go ahead. Say it.
No. What is getting lost in here is Joe screaming and ranting every week that he doesn't belong pitching, that he's a Nepo baby, that he wasn't one of the best college pitchers that we've seen in the last 20 years at Vanderbilt. I never said he wasn't one of
the good college pitchers.
You said he was a Nepo baby, that he got his opportunity there. I said he was a good college pitcher,
and I said, considering his minor league track record, he's gotten a lot of opportunities to prove himself. And to me, he's still found lacking. I think the numbers show that out.
Well, this is it's a hilarious bit. I've never advocated that you want to go and like own Jack Leiter and you play him every single week. But the discussions were that he is absolutely nothing. And the only reason he's here is because his father was Al Leiter. And I look and I see plus stuff numbers. There's inconsistencies. His fastball grades out well.
Yeah,
he had a killer fastball slider combination in college that he has not quite developed in the major leagues. And by the way, he's 25 years old. And the Rangers have kind of revamped their entire pitching development and how they're treating these guys. Jack Leiter's gone through like he got taken out of the minors for like a full month just to go into kind of developmental hell. So I don't want this to be about like, hey, Welsh is like, you got to draft Jack Leiter. No, not at all. That was me defending that this isn't just some Nepo baby. This was one of the most dominant college pitchers who, like, if he can get his fastball slider and the command up, he showed signs last year. He'd have 4 or 5 stretches, but yeah, he's not someone you could trust. He's like a
Mark Appel
starter.
Was a dominant college pitcher too.
Well, okay, he never got an opportunity.
What are you doing? Why are you doing that?
No.
That's
not. I can do that.
This is what would happen. This is what would happen.
I'm on your side,
but like the excuse that somehow I can go on if you want. There's a lot of dominant pitchers that don't translate to the major leagues. Pitching in college is something that is. I don't say he wasn't a dominant college pitcher because he was. He was very good. My whole point is, to me, he's not been special. And so far, he hasn't shown me, as Nick put, the ability to get outs when he needs to. And he struggles with he struggles with his
acting
control.
Like he just had a 5 ERA.
Yeah, 3.28 second half ERA was pretty good last
Hold on a second,
season.
numbers boys. Basically, what happened was the expected ERA was 4.5. And that is league average at best.
Oh, okay.
At best.
Okay. I don't care what the XERA
That's
is.
fine.
I just tell you all the reasons
you
why
guys can love pitchers.
You
guys can love pitchers who have 4 walks per 9. I think that's great. I think when you walk guys, that's obviously
that makes more sense.
That's obviously a recipe for success. All the great pitchers in Major League Baseball history.
Joe, I just said I was on your side.
Oh, Joe just burned it down. I love it. Burned it down.
I'll always burn it down. You are on my side for a second there, and then you started
because you're being ridiculous.
Don't cross me, Pollack. Okay. All right, Quinn Priester at 78, Kodai Senga at 79. Unfortunately, Pablo Lopez no longer with us this season. Shout out to Pablo. Grayson Rodriguez at 81. Real quick, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on Grayson Rodriguez. Morbid curiosity, Nick Pollack?
Of course.
Let me know.
Why not? You dropped.
I agree. This is where I agree. Okay, yes. Morbid curiosity on Grayson Rodriguez. Good. Next up here.
Not McClanahan, but Grayson. Got it.
Well, I mean.
It's because it's a different price for him. That's fine. Let's move on.
It's a different price. Well, Shane McClanahan, 64th pitcher off the board. Grayson Rodriguez is the 80th. This is a big difference. Welsh, is that not a big difference for you?
Numerically, that is, but those are also like the back end of your rotation. They're both like that. That's like the
one turn debate, guys.
It's not just that. It's also the overall players that are available at that.
We are having a lot of fun now.
But I think the overall players in that area, you're looking at some names that I still want on my rosters, and if I'm going to take a shot on a pitcher, I want him to. I just want it to cost me a little less if I think he bottoms out.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. He definitely costs less, but Grayson's not a top 20 prospect or top 20 SP if he's healthy. But to your point,
it's funny how we all forget 2 years ago people were falling over themselves about Grayson Rodriguez being one of the top pitching prospects in baseball.
But McClanahan is better at the peak.
McClanahan is absolutely better and more proven. He was a Cy Young contender. There's no doubt about that.
Can we talk about our awesome guys? We have awesome guys to talk about. We're talking about Jack
Logan Henderson at 82, Sean Manaea at 83. Continuing on for this group here, look, it's a lot of guys like the Zebby Matthews who haven't quite figured it out yet. Guys like Ryan Weathers who, at 89 could start the year in a rotation, and then who knows if he gets bumped at some point for other guys as they return from all this. But Ryan Weathers, Nick, is a guy that I want to start with because that is one that I feel like if you're looking for early help, Weathers could be one of those guys, and again, cost you almost nothing.
This is another perfect example of what we're talking about here. Like, he's a draft pick of free. If my last pick of my draft gives me 2 months of stellar production, that's unbelievable. You're thrilled. If you're not drafting him because you're worried about Rodon and Cole returning, are you suggesting that this rotation will be exactly the same at that point anyway? This happens all the time where there's a guy returning from injury and we don't draft some Atlanta players because, Spencer Strider's going to return, so they're going to get bumped. Yeah, okay. Like all these other pitchers got hurt and it's a completely different situation at that point. You don't really know what's going to happen. I don't even think it's going to be Weathers that would be the one that would get kicked out if Weathers is healthy at that point. And Weathers, as far as a skill set goes, he has an amazing changeup with 96, 97 velocity and an improved slider. And honestly, there's one change. I know it sounds like a stupid ad. Like the doctors don't want to let you know there's one secret, but this is really it. The Miami Marlins, for some reason, don't teach their lefties to throw inside sinkers. Jesus Luzardo did not throw an inside sinker, but he had all this horizontal movement on his four-seamer. Dead zone four-seamer, though. And what happens? He goes to the Phillies. Where do they go? Oh, hey, throw inside sinkers to lefties. All of a sudden, it's an amazing fastball down to lefties, and he's solved his lefty problem. Right? That was one of the biggest changes for Luzardo last year. Unfortunately, not enough for the volatility, but that's another story. Now, Weathers has not thrown a sinker inside to lefties, but he has this horizontal movement on the 5 sinkers that he's thrown. Yeah, the Yankees are going to do that. So Weathers to me is value up the wazoo here. And if you're worried about injury or him getting replaced, who cares? He's in the rotation right now for your last pick. Amazing.
I agree. 100%. Love it. Let's get to another guy here in this last grouping. I know for me, outside the top 75, Ian Seymour is a guy that I keep circling and drafting late. Welsh, Ryne Nelson's one of those guys for you. Does this come back to the defense of the Diamondbacks?
Yeah, definitely a part of it. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like Nick said, it's got to be accounted for some of those top end guys, but also like Nelson was pretty great last year. He's kind of maintained a couple straight years if he's not walking. You're starting to see like a slow uptick as far as strikeout. It's still not great, but 20 to 21. If that starts to tick up a little bit more as that stuff becomes bigger, he saw a half a mile increase on his fastball. Stuff plus numbers. He was overall 108. His fastball 115. Like Ryne Nelson is sneaky, and he is now out. If people don't remember, he was kind of put in that like pseudo relief, long relief to start the season. That's not happening now. Like he is the guy. And even though they brought in Zac Gallen, guess what they're not discussing? Ryne Nelson going to the bullpen. It's Brandon Pfaadt, it's Eduardo Rodriguez, or it's Mike Soroka crying about it. Like one of them are going to have to cry about it. It's not going to be Ryne Nelson, and they're going to let him go. And he was the most consistent. If you really want to break it down, like maybe you could say Merrill, but like for the entirety of the season, he was the most consistent of any of those guys. If you want to look at expected numbers, his expected ERA was also under 4. So that's just more of a support system to say like, hey, this can be a 3.5 ERA guy that, he's throwing solid stuff. The fastball is ticking up in the right direction. And if you can get up to 22, 23 K percentage, not a top 30. He's not going to be Brian Wu going from 20 to 26% K percentage, but like he's in that general vicinity. And then, like we said, there's a pretty good defense that's around him that might end up creating an extra inning for quality starts, might get you an extra win or two into the season, and might save a decent amount of runs to keep that into like a low 3 ERA. So like Ryne Nelson, I think is just like such a good back end of the rotation, your fantasy rotation to snatch, because I think there's just like maybe he's not like the exciting Grayson Rodriguez upside, but he's kind of like fun, boring. You know what I mean? It's just like, what if you got like low 3, low walk guy that's floating out there at the end of your draft and you don't have to stream him out? I like Ryne Nelson a lot. And
one of the best fastballs in baseball. It's amazing.
Nick, on your old dating profile, didn't he used to say fun, boring? I feel
like, my gosh. Yeah. Why would you? What do they do to you?
I'm actually probably a fun, boring. I'm probably more of a fun, boring. I go on both sides of it.
Oh, stop. All right, let's talk about the sleepers, the busts, and the must-haves here. Nick, why don't you start us off with a sleeper that everybody should be looking at?
I mean, okay, there are two that are really sticking out. I know it sounds crazy. It's not your boy Ian Seymour. I'm really sorry, but he's not going to be in the rotation, Joe.
Yet. Someday.
I know, but no, we don't stash guys. I do like Ian Seymour if he were in the rotation. Bailey Ober is one, just so you know here. Bailey Ober, I know we all did not like last year, but he was actually dealing with injuries. And it's kind of wild to me that Bailey Ober is just getting completely forgotten about. Now he's going to get the opportunity if his velocity is back up a little bit. Like, yeah, he was really good the previous years with an amazing elite changeup that was still good last year. But the one that we don't talk about now is Ryan Weiss. Ryan Weiss is coming from the KBO. He had a phenomenal season there, tons of strikeouts, and he's really a hard-throwing 95-96 with an amazing slider. So you throw that onto the Astros, who are likely going to have a 6-man rotation, and they want to get innings. They got Ryan Weiss because he was able to go long in games in the KBO, and like, yes, please do that for us now. So to get a guy that has the opportunity of going 90 pitches in a game with a possible 24% strikeout rate, that seems really, really exciting for me. So I think that Ryan Weiss is getting overlooked a lot.
Former Arizona Diamondback guy, right? Too Welsh?
A totally different guy now.
Totally different guy.
Yeah, maybe a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, I'm right. Arizona, and then KC for a little while too, but no big league experience. I don't remember him ever. No, he did not pitch ever make it into big league. So that interesting name there. See, that's a free guy. That's your last pick, everybody. Ryan Weiss. Listen to Nick Pollack. That's a good one. Welsh, another guy who's come back to the major leagues here, is one of your sleeper guys. Let's talk about Cody.
How about the KBO MVP? 1.89 ERA, completely transformed. I mean, again, KBO, AA, AAA version of the majors, however you want to look at that, but completely revamped. Fastball came up 2 ticks. I also think we talked about this on a show. I'm forgetting which show it was, but underrated is just like being in a room with like Kevin Gossman and Dylan Cease and the way they have all connected, working through a splitter like that with the fastball uptick. I think there's a lot of good stuff in store for Cody Ponce, and he absolutely dominated KBO last year, and he is $3.99. So, you take that MVP with that stuff on paper, the stuff looks really good. Obviously, we've got to see if it's going to materialize, but he costs you absolutely nothing. And guess what? He gets blown out at the top, like we've been talking about. You cut him and you move on. But there is a legitimate shot where, Cody Ponce carries some of this over. That fastball plays for his secondaries to just become real out pitches. And then all of a sudden, he's a guy that you don't get out of your rotation the entire year. So I like Cody Ponce a lot.
All right, Nick, we're going to open up the entire pitching market to you, not just the 45 and above group. Which is also in his dating profile. Very funny. But see, that's a running joke, Nick. That's
oh my gosh.
Let's talk about it. Give me your bust guy, the guy that you are not buying in on his ADP, and why.
That was a pretty good line, I gotta say. Yeah, I'm just completely out on Spencer Strider. It's pretty clear. I know it's going to sound like a long story, but it's very simple. I've never seen, and I actually put this out into all the analysts I know in the industry I asked, and no one had an answer for it. A pitcher with an elite 4-seamer have Tommy John come back and not have an elite 4-seamer to then regain it the next year. It has never happened. And even the quotes that we've seen have been like, I am working to do more with my arsenal. Like it's essentially acknowledging the fact that Spencer Strider is not the Spencer Strider of old. But Nick, he had a really good strikeout rate last year. He could be really good. No. He had a 15 strikeout game against the Colorado Rockies. And that is messing things up a little bit here. I do not believe that Spencer Strider, the pitcher and not the thrower, is actually worth your time more so than a lot of other guys. I have him in the 70s. And that is saying, look, maybe there is something else that he can gain. I know you're looking at me like that, but I don't.
70 seems extreme. I can understand not liking him in the top 25.
I don't think that I don't think it's a guarantee in any way that Spencer Strider is going to be productive and good for your fantasy teams, because last year he wasn't necessarily. Like there was a lot of times you probably shouldn't have even had Spencer Strider on your team.
Who were the guys that recovered after?
None.
That didn't. Well, hold on. Wait. You gotta ask the question. That didn't recover their fastball. I want to know some of those names and see whether or not we thought they ended up becoming good pitchers after all.
Who had an elite one?
Well, you said who were the guys that had the elite, didn't have it afterwards, and what kind of careers they had. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't remember that list at the top of my head.
Because that to me is
like
fascinating.
not Corey Kluber. I'll get that for you after you do Welsh's. But yeah, it was essentially just like it didn't happen. It's never happened.
Yeah, because that's the interesting part to me is I love to know those names because to
that's a great point.
Then we would see it goes well this guy still a good enough pitcher like to rank him 70, extreme if he was still not quite the same guy, but productive to a certain degree, maybe a top 50 pitcher still, or top 30 even potentially.
It could be, but that's the thing is like, that's what you're hoping for, right? So I don't want to go, I'm not going to draft him there because that means that's a mystery still.
So there was no data that showed anybody who had an elite fastball to that level who how often does it come back for these guys?
Yeah. Is never.
How often does it come back for these guys?
Well, I mean, it's like, for example, you Darvish did.
It's just back.
Right? Jose Fernandez did, right? Coming back from Tommy John. We've seen that before. This is UCL internal brace, maybe, and then maybe that could be the discerning factor.
Well, I guess that's the big question too, because
it could
now
be
we've
that
gone to
that
this
doesn't
internal
help.
brace. Where,
But then again, no, Drew Rasmussen had the internal brace, and his fastball is great still, right?
Well, because what did Cole have? Cole had the brace too, right?
Garrett Cole, he might. Yeah, I think
he had the brace surgery too.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking because I'm trying to like put some things together here, the pieces together for people drafting some of these guys next year.
I think really the more important part is that he didn't have it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, instead of saying like, cool, with brace, you get this, with TJS, you have that. If you don't have it, we've never seen you reclaim it.
Would a good spring where he's throwing 98 change your opinion?
If he's throwing 98 consistently sitting there as he has in the past with the same IVB, the vert, and the same extension and the same attack angle, making it the same fastball as before, absolutely would change my mind.
Okay. There you go. Moving right up to 69. All right, Welsh, give me your bust that you want to talk about in this range.
Yeah, I didn't even realize I did this too, but we both picked guys that were not necessarily in this this range of that we've been talking about today. But
well, yours is in this range actually.
Oh, was he in this range?
I thought he was early on in this range. Yeah.
Oh, okay, It's been a long episode. It's
been a long
missed
episode.
It. Yeah, I guess
what
he was
we do when we get
57.
together. We talk baseball. This is why you come to the channel. This is why you stay on the channel.
Tatsuya Imai is my bust. I will admit, seeing it if he is 57, the 57 is a lot more like palatable, I suppose, in the cost. I do think we're on a rocket ship that's going to come up because like all that you're getting over the last week is like, oh my gosh, this splitter is going to be absolutely unhittable. But you know, I haven't been able to get over specifically one thing. It's been the market for him. You know, like there's only so many great pitchers that anybody can have any investment on. And it ended up being a market where it was like 3 years and it was attached to a super low innings cap. I mean, his incentives are built around like 70, 80, and 90 innings. Like what was the holdback that people had? Coming out, there was also a big question about his reverse slider and how that was really going to work. So like his splitter's disgusting, no doubt. But I just wonder, like, you know, are we going to lay off the splitter? Is the fastball going to set things up enough? And is this reverse slider, which I think a lot of people have had questions about, is it going to dominate at a level where he can be just like an elite fantasy pitcher? So I'm going to fully acknowledge if he is like 57, because I don't want to like be a hypocrite and say like, well, it's not really that bad of a cost. If it doesn't work out, you can kind of move on. I guess I'm working more in a market where I've seen him going inside the top 50. And I think there's just some questions outside of just focusing on like, oh my gosh, his splitter. And oh my gosh, his splitter. It's like even the team themselves are like, can you get us 100 innings in here? And I'm just not sure that the fastball and the reverse slider are going to be as dominant to set up this splitter to be this disgusting pitch. And he's going to be Yamamoto or anything like that. So I don't love the cost, but you know, like I said, the 57 isn't as crazy as like my brain was working with him.
Now we have some fun because the must-haves. Guess who Nick Pollack is, everybody?
Imai.
That's right. Tatsuya Imai, and I have him at 33. So I see someone who the Astros got to just be an innings eater. Same kind of way that they got Ryan Weiss is like, cool. Wait, we only have to pay like 24 million or whatever it is for you. That'd be great. 20 million. Awesome. We'll take a year of that. Oh, but it was 60 million plus for 3 years. No, he has an opt-out. He's going to get this. And Imai is, well, he has a track record of essentially pitching like a veteran. He has a fastball that is absurdly flat, like Joe Ryan's. If you don't understand that, it's a four-seamer he throws upstairs that has a flat attack angle, which is really hard to make contact with the normal bat path upstairs. In other words, it's going to miss a lot of bats upstairs, guys. All right. It's at faster velocity than Joe Ryan's as well. The splitter has 3 different shapes, and he manipulates it. And this is a lot of stuff from Lance Brodowski's breakdown, which I highly recommend you watch on YouTube. And also, Inio Saris did have a breakdown as well, where he does make that Joe Ryan comparisons where I got that from. And the slider, you say the reverse slider, I'm not really worried about that. Just think of it as a gyro slider, guys. And those are typical ones. Those are standard affair. So I think has been a very good pitch, a good whiff pitch for him. Overseas should still be. This is a complete pitcher to me. This is someone that is a gamer who sits 94, 95 on his four-seamer and then pushes it later in the game to 98 rather, and understands that you're not supposed to just go max effort every time. How you actually get your outs, get your strikeouts, get through games. I see a really safe pitcher here for a good ball club. You want to be pitching for the Astros. And they're going to throw him out there for 90 plus pitches every time. This is a great pick.
There you go. So 2 different ends of the spectrum on Imai, 2 ends of the spectrum on a lot of different guys here on the show. Welsh, close us out here with your must-have in this range that we're talking about.
I'm going to change mine because I think it's only appropriate for the show. Your must-have is actually lower. I originally picked Shane Baz, but you know what? Got to have Shane McClanahan, and I think that's been proven on this episode. So must-have Shane McClanahan and a little nod to Shane Baz for my must-have.
All right, make sure you check out all the ultimate guides here. Again, this is part 2 of the starting pitchers. Part 1 was with Saris. We've had an amazing run here with these shows. They're all going to be a playlist for you that you can watch them on YouTube. Get ready for all your leagues. So just go through them all the infields, the outfields, the starting pitchers. Everything's here for you, trying to get everybody ready for the season. And Nick, we always love having you on because we like to have good discussions. If you want everyone to sit here and agree with each other, what are we doing? That's the whole point. The whole point is that we bring up different questions, we challenge each other so that you can go out there and make the decisions that you think are the best for your fantasy seasons. And I think that makes for good television, that makes for good conversation. And Nick Pollack, you always make for good conversation. Go check out Pitcher List, not just because of the 80,000 words he wrote, because all the pitching breakdowns are the best in the business. Nick does a phenomenal job. He's a friend of ours, he's a friend of the show. And Nick, every year, I'm sorry we couldn't be a part of PitchCon this year. We were on the road this year, Welsh and myself, but can still people go ahead and donate and make sure that they are a part of this program again, because every year you're raising money for ALS and it's a huge thing and we love to be a part of it. I'm sorry we couldn't be this year as a first year. We haven't
quite
been,
all right.
But if there's a way for people to still donate and be a part of it.
ALS1.org. Just donate directly to it. We raised, I believe, over $14,000 for the cause. Awesome. 100% went straight to it. Absolutely incredible. So it's a huge testament to the entire community being a part of it as well. You guys have been part of it for years now. And looking forward to doing it again next year. But it is actually all available on YouTube right now and also via podcast. We have former years as well as different seasons as PitchCon audio. So if you missed out and you want to catch it, just go listen to a podcast or watch it on YouTube. Great to see you as always, my friend. Everyone go to Picture List. Check it out today. Good stuff. And everyone go get that Shane McClanahan mug too. That's a pretty snazzy mug there. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Nick Pollack and The Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.